Hello, and welcome to the Dystopian Book Talk. Today I'm going to share with you 3 incredible books set in fascinatingly scary and thought-provoking dystopian worlds. I'm going to share just enough with you to spark your interest, but don't worry, I'm not going to ruin the books or give away any spoilers. But first, let's talk about what a dystopian is. Basically, it's a world, usually in the future, where a utopian has gone wrong. Utopian, however, is a word that describes the perfect and ideal society, world, government, things like that. And a dystopian is the opposite. It's usually what comes out of the attempt to create a utopian. And that happens in all 3 of our books. We've got cultures that have attempted to create utopians and unfortunately have instead created dystopians. So let's go on to the books. So the first book we're going to talk about the ever-popular The Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins. So it first debuted in 2008 and has since been made into a major motion picture. It starred Jennifer Lawrence, and the sequels are the second and third book, because this is the first book in a series. The second and third book are coming out on the movie as well. So if you like this book, you can definitely check out the movies and the series. So let's just talk about the book in general. So the world is Panem, which is a post-apocalyptic United States made up of 12 different districts. Each one specializes in a different trade. So in the center is the capital. And the capital is this huge, elaborate, rich city that basically controls all the 12 societies around it, or the 12 districts around it. And it pretty much controls it with oppression, terror. It's not a good ruler. So 75 years ago, however, the districts rebelled against the capital because they were unhappy with this oppression and terror. And unfortunately, they lost. So ever since then, they've been punished by the capital with the Hunger Games. So, The Hunger Games, the book, opens and it's Reaping Day. Reaping Day is the day and the process when one boy and one girl from all 12 districts are chosen at random to compete in the Hunger Games. And the Hunger Games are basically these 24 kids put into this world that has been created, and they have to fight to the death until one person remains, and that one person is the victor. From then on, they're going to live in a life of luxury, but they have killed 23 people who are under the age of 18. So it's a really not a happy thing. The book opens up on the day of reaping with our main character, Katniss. Katniss is this strong, intelligent, fiery girl. She's 16, and she describes the reaping. So let's see how she says it. The reaping system is unfair, with the poor getting the worst of it. You become eligible for the reaping the day you turn 12. That year, your name is entered once, at 13 twice, and so on until you reach the age of 18. The final year of eligibility, when your name goes into the pool 7 times. That's true for every citizen in all 12 districts in the entire country of Panem. But here's the catch. Say you're poor and starving, as we are. You can opt to add your name more times in exchange for tesserae. Each tessera is worth a meager year's supply of grain and oil for one person. You may do this for each of your family members as well. So, at the age of 12, I had my name entered 4 times. Once because I had to, and 3 times for tesserae for grain and oil for myself, Prim, and my mother. In fact, every year I've needed to do this, and the entries are cumulative. So now, at the age of 16, my name will be in the reaping 20 times. So this is the first year that her little sister Primrose, or she calls her Prim, is entered into the drawing. However, as fate would have it, even though this is the first time she's ever been entered into the drawing, and Katniss refuses to let her put her name in more than 1 time, or the allotted time for that age, basically Katniss will not let Prim put her name in multiple times to get food and things like that, because she doesn't want her to up her chances. Unfortunately, however, Effie Trinket. Effie Trinket's this eccentric, crazy lady. She's the escort for District 12 from the Capitol. She calls Prim's name. However, Katniss volunteers. Katniss isn't about to let her 12-year-old little sister go into the Hunger Games, where she'll most likely definitely die since she's so tiny and she's 12. So Katniss actually volunteers, which is this huge deal. It's never really happened before in District 12. And it's turned into this huge thing. At that point, then, the boy is called. That's Peeta Mellark. He's often referred to as the boy with bread. And he is the male tribute from District 12. So the story goes on to describe Katniss's strength as she and Peeta and all the other people, the 22 other boys and girls, compete in the 76 Hunger Games. It's a great book. Highly recommend it. Another really awesome book, however, is The Maze Runner by James Dashner. And that's actually going to be turned into a movie in 2014, so look out for that. I'm excited! So this is the first of 4 books in the series, and the book begins like this. He began his new life standing up, surrounded by cold darkness and stale, dusty air. Metal ground against metal. A lurching shudder shook the floor beneath him. He fell down at the sudden movement and shuffled backward on his hands and feet. Drops of sweat building on his forehead despite the cool air. His back struck a hard metal wall. He slid along it until he hit the corner of the room. Sinking to the floor, he pulled his legs up tight against his body, hoping his eyes would soon adjust to the darkness. With another jolt, the room jerked upward, like an old lift in a mine shaft. Harsh sounds of chains and pulleys, like the working of an ancient steel factory, echoed through the room, bouncing off the walls with a hollow, tiny whine. The lightless elevator swayed back and forth as it ascended, turning the boy's stomach sour with nausea. A smell like burnt oil invaded his senses, making him feel worse. He wanted to cry, but no tears came. He could only sit there, alone, waiting. My name is Thomas, he thought. That was the only thing that he could remember about his life. So after that, basically, Thomas, he opens his eyes adjust, and he finds himself in the Glade. The Glade is this artificial world. It's a big, huge dome with artificial sunlight, artificial rain, artificial weather, and there's about 60 other boys. They call themselves Gladers. There's about 60 other of them who have been placed here. They've got livestock to eat, they've got dwelling, they've got agriculture, they've got a cook. They all kind of have their own jobs, and they're trying to survive. But meanwhile, they're also trying to escape. So all around this kind of central area where they live is a maze. And in this maze are these deadly, deadly robotic creatures. And one of the jobs is, it's called runners. And Thomas joins the runners, and the runners go out every single day and try to find a way of escape. Basically, this book is incredible. It's really fast-paced. There's adventure after adventure, while Thomas and his friends kind of battle morale and try to find their way out of this maze and out of the Glade. None of them can remember anything about their lives before they showed up at the Glade, and so they're all kind of counting on each other and living off of each other. It's really excellent. Absolutely one of my favorite books. And this whole entire series is excellent. So another really awesome book is The Uglies by Scott Westerfield. This is also the first book in a series. So this book is fascinating. It's this great take on basically our society's current obsession with weight and appearance and attractiveness, because as we all know, we're all obsessed with appearance. You know, everywhere you look, pretty, skinny, etc. So this is a good take on that. It's really, really great, especially while you're in high school and you're having all those uncertain moments about your appearance as your body's changing, etc. It's really great for that. So it basically takes it to a whole new level where it's the 24th century and science has figured out a way to create, to turn people through a method of plastic surgery, which is extremely invasive and not pleasant at all, to turn them into the biologically perfect being. Appearance-wise, that is. So at the age of 16, everyone goes through this operation and becomes a pretty. Before that, however, they are uglies. And these uglies live in dorms with other uglies and go through their life, go to school, learn about the past when everyone was ugly, until they turn pretty, and they're all obsessed with turning pretty. So Tally Youngblood is about to turn 16. She's our main character, and she can think of nothing but becoming pretty. She spends hours upon hours just fantasizing about becoming pretty. She decides to, they have this computer system which allows you to take your face and use different mechanisms to make it ideal pretty. So she spends hours making these images of what she might look like when they make her pretty once she turns 16. And she's so excited to turn pretty. Until this one night when she meets Shay. Shay is the same age as her, and Shay basically turns her world upside down. Shay introduces her to this whole new world and a whole new way of thinking. And this way of thinking is literally going to alter Tally's life from then on out. I'm going to read you this conversation that Shay and Tally have together right after Tally convinces Shay to go through this to do this computer altering process to see what Shay is going to look like when she becomes pretty. Shay gets pretty upset. This is what happens. Shay scowled. "What? Can't you stand me? Do you need to get some picture into your head so you can imagine it instead of my face?" "Shay, come on. It's just for fun." "Making ourselves feel ugly is not fun. We are ugly. This whole game is just designed to make us hate ourselves." Tally groaned and flopped back onto her bed, glaring up at the ceiling. Shay could be so weird sometimes. She always had a chip on her shoulder about the operation. Like someone was making her turn 16? Right, and things were so great back when everyone was ugly. Or did you miss that day in school? Yeah, I know, Shay recited. Everyone judged everyone else based on their appearance. People who were taller got better jobs, and people even voted for some politicians just because they weren't quite as ugly as everyone else. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, and people killed one another over stuff like having different skin color. Tally shook her head. No matter how many times they repeated that at school, she'd never really quite believed that one. So what if people look more alike now? It's the only way to make people equal. How about making them smarter? Shay said. So that is The Uglies. It's amazing. There's great adventures that go on, and I don't want to give you any more because I might spoil it for you. So I'm going to end that here. I'm going to end talking about these books now before I spoil anything for you. But I definitely want you to go out and get The Hunger Games, The Maze Runner, and The Uglies, and at least read the first books. But I guarantee that once you read the first books, you're going to want to read all the books in the series. And all the books in all of these 3 series are incredible. And they're super, super great. They're super high adventure. Lots of really interesting things happen that, kind of make you think about the world and think about the world that we live in. Is how close to this dystopian are we? Are we closer to the utopian, or are we kind of on the verge? They all address teen issues, they all address romance, they all address growing up, they all address kind of the emotional and physical development that happens as you're a teenager. But I highly suggest each of these books, and I think that you should go now and go read them. So enjoy.